Hello guys, good morning. In the last class, I talked about how to read news, how to use news to open trades in the forex markets, right? And I was basically talking about fundamental analysis. I said in the beginning of the class that there are two kinds of trades. You can make trades through fundamental analysis, that is opening trades purely on news releases, and technical analysis. Technical analysis is when you um, make use of technical tools like support and resistance, indicators, price action, candlestick analysis, and the rest of them. So in this class, we're going to be talking about pivot points. Pivot Point is one very important app. I said we should download, and I said I'm going to explain in time to come, right? So now, Pivot Point is a very strong technical analysis tool. Now, with respect to price action, when I was talking about support and resistance, when I said we have horizontal support and resistance, when I said we have trend lines, that is markets trending up, and we have markets trending down, right? Now, the problem with um, drawing these points by yourself is the fact that different people can draw different support and resistance. It differs by person. Let's say these are points, right? This and that point. Then let's say this is um, points here and that point. Now for the support, somebody can draw here. Then for the resistance, somebody can draw here. They are both correct, you understand, but it is not general. So now the advantage of pivot points is that pivot points is an app or a method whereby you can be able to get the general support and resistance. You understand? You can get a general support and resistance that every single person can use as a general point for reversal of price. You understand? So that's the advantage of pivot point app. So I'm going to be explaining um, some things about pivot points before we go into it fully. So the advantage of pivot points is that it helps you to better draw support and resistance points. You understand? So that you can know where to expect. When I was talking about support and resistance, I said you need to wait for 2 points to form first before you can start drawing them. Then it helps you to know the points that once price reaches, price is going to reverse. Now, the advantage of pivot points is that um, when you do the calculation or use the app to generate the points, you just you just use your horizontal um, line to mark out those points. You understand? So it helps you to know the points that you need to mark out. You understand? So that once price is about getting to those points, you execute trades there, or you wait for candlestick confirmations first before you enter the trades. So there are some types of pivot points. There are 4 types of pivot points. We have the standard pivot point, we have the Woody pivot point, we have the Camarilla pivot point, we have the Fibonacci pivot points. But the one we're going to be talking about in this class is the standard pivot point. About the standard pivot point, right? So standard pivot point is the most commonly used one by most traders all over the world, right? So now it helps us in calculating the potential support and resistance, like I said, right? So now, for us to be able to calculate the pivot point and the potential support and resistance, now we need to take note of the low and the high, the opening and the closing price of the previous daily candle. You understand? I said we take note of the previous daily candle. You understand? So let's say in a market like USD card, CSD card, right? We need on D1 daily time frame. We will need to take note of these points: the low, the high, the open, the close, just like that. So we need to take note of all those points so that we can be able to calculate the vital points we need to take note of for the next trading day. You understand? So I've already explained all these things before. You understand? When I say this is the open, the close, the low, the high. If the market is buying, then this is the open, the close, the low, high. The market is selling, right? I've already explained all these things before. So, like I said, we'll take note that we're going to make use of the candle that closed for the last day on the daily time frame. The daily time frame. Remember. So, if let's say I want to calculate the pivot points for tomorrow, right? I'll need to wait for today's candle, for today's candles to form finish. That is the daily candle to form finish, right? Then I'll now make use of the values to calculate the pivot points. You understand? So I think in Nigerian time, each candle closes at around 12 o'clock. I think 12 midnight, 12 p.m. or some brokers by 1, depending on the broker you're trading with, right? 1 in the night, then a new one begins to form. So you can now make use of those points to calculate the pivot points. You understand? So these are some calculations they use to calculate some of the points, but we don't need it, right? I would also, because we are looking for easier methods. Well, just in case you want to know how it is done manually, these are some of the calculations you need. The calculations you need, right? So, like I said in the basics when I was teaching, I said you need to download the Pivot Point app, the Pivot Point Calculator app, right? So this is the app. Once you see this particular app, you download this one. This is how the user interface for the pivot point calculator I'm going to be using looks like. You understand? So now remember, what we need is just the high, the low, and the close. We insert the values inside here and click on calculate. Then it calculates for us the points we need, right? So now let me make use of this example. Now this is um GBP USD, that's Great British Pounds against United States dollars, right? So now this is the daily time frame, as you can see, the daily time frame, right? Then look at the candle that we want to calculate the pivot point for to enable us know the potential support and resistance for the next day, right? So now remember, you take note of the low, the high, and the close of that candle, right? So look at this now. Once we have been first of all marked out the candle we want to use to calculate the pivot points for the next day, right? Which is this one I circled here. Then look at the points I marked out: the high, the low, the open, and the close, right? We have already marked out the points of interest, right? Mark out the points of interest. So now you can use the crosshair cursor, this crosshair cursor, right, and place it around those points you need, those specific points you want, and get the value. You understand? So once you place your crosshair cursor around the open, the low, the high, and the close, these are the values you will get. You understand? Remember, this is an example I'm giving with respect to this particular chart here. So if you check the values you will get, it is going to coincide with these ones here, right? So this is not a real time. That is to say, I'm not currently using today's candle. When I wrote this book, I think years ago, yes, I wrote this book some years ago. So this example is quite old, but I'll try and show us an example with the candle that happened yesterday, right? So now these are the values we have gotten. These are the points we have gotten, the values we have gotten. Now, what we need to do now is um, insert these values into our pivot point calculator and calculate. But before you do that, I said remember to take note of whether the candle that that formed was a bullish or bearish candle. Reason being is so that you don't the open and the close for bullish and bearish candle is different, so that you don't mistake those points. Don't mistake those points, right? So another easier way of getting those values without actually having to use your crosshair cursor to be touching the high, the low, the open and the close of the candle is to just carry the crosshair cursor and put on the candle you want to get those values. Just put the crosshair cursor in the middle of the candle of interest. Once you do that, you will notice that the values, the open, the low, the high and the close, all the values are here. Look at them: open, low, high and close, right? So all the values automatically appear up there, which makes everything easier for you. You understand? It makes the whole work easier for you. So they said the values may differ a little bit by micro pips. You understand? But it doesn't really matter. You understand? It doesn't really matter. You know, when you use the crosshair cursor and put them on the low, the high, the open and the close, there's small chance that there'll be small errors because it is not done automatically. You understand? But when you put the candle on top of the candle, the crosshair cursor on top of the candle, it gives you more accurate values, right? So now what you don't do is to insert the values like I did here into the crosshair cursor, right? The high, the low, the open and the close, and click on calculate. Once you click on calculate now, it gives you these points. Now you notice that we have three different resistance 1, 2 and 3. Then we have the pivot point and we have resistance support 1, 2 and 3. Now that I've gotten all these points, now what you need to do now is take note of these points, then go to the chart, right? Let's say 30 minutes time frame or 1 hour time frame, and use your horizontal line and mark out those points. You need to mark out those points so that in case when market moves to those points and either touches them or forms a candlestick pattern around those regions, you execute your trade. So let's say this is our resistance 1, 2, 3, right? And this is our support 1, 2, 3, based on the values we got. Now once you insert your lines on your chart, right? Let's say the market is going now. It now comes to this point. Remember, I said you can either set pending orders at those points so that in case immediately the market reaches those points, it changes direction, or you can wait for a candlestick confirmation to form at those points before executing your trade. You understand? So we have marked out the points of interest S1, S2, and S3, right? S1, S2, S3. This is R1, R2, R3. So we have marked out our points of interest. So when the market now goes down, 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 you just need to mark out those points and see what forms are those places. You understand? So that's just the advantage of pivot points. It helps you to know exactly the points of interest so that it is easier for you to enter the market. You understand? So that's just it. This is just further example with pending order. I've already explained pending order before, so it just makes um, this explanations here is just to make you understand better. But I've already done that in the previous class. I can remember I just spoke about using pending orders to catch the pip immediately. You understand? So let's go to our MetaTrader app. so I can show a practical example. For those that are finding it difficult to download this particular pivot point app, this is the app on Play Store. So this is how it looks like this, right? So you just click on install, then you install the app. After installing, I will show you guys how to calculate. It's a practical example to make us understand better. Okay guys, after downloading the pivot point app, right? Now for this example, I'm going to be making use of GBP JPY, for example. So let's switch it to daily time frame. Now this is the candle that is currently forming for today, this one. But we are going to remember, we use the previous daily candle to know the potential support and resistance for the next day. So I'm going to make use of um, this one. This is the one that formed yesterday. This one here, right? So now remember, I said if you want to get the value for the open, the low, the high, and the close, you make use of the crosshair cursor and mark out those points, right? Mark out the value for the low, the value for the high, and the value for the close. But remember, I said that once you just uh, put the crosshair cursor in the middle of the candle, it automatically gives you all those values which are here already, right? They're already here, and I have already inserted them into the pivot point calculator. For the value for the low, the value should be something around 1.161.97. If you put a crosshair cursor in the middle, 161.97, see it here, which is the low. If you put your crosshair cursor in the close here, in the high here, the value is around 163.3. Put it here, 163.318. See the accurate value, exact value, 163.318. Then if you put the crosshair cursor for the close, 162.43. Put it here, 162.43. See the value here, right? So now once you insert all these values into your crosshair cursor, which I have done here, right? The value for the high, 163.31, 163.31, 163.3, 163.318, correct? Value for the low, 161.97, 160, 161.97, and the value for the close, which is value for the close, which is 162.4, close 162.433, close 162.433. Then after inserting all those values, you click on calculate, which it has already given us the values, right? So we take note of the pivot point, the resistance 1, resistance 2, support 1, support 2. So now let's check for the value of the resistance 1, which is 163.177. 163.177. So we switch back to either 30 minutes time frame or daily time frame, right? So this one, resistance 1, is 163.177, 163.177, 163.1, which is around this point, right? I used this what they call it, um, horizontal bar to mark it, which is this one, right? So I've drawn this one, and let's check for resistance 2. Resistance 2 is 163.921. The value is very, very high, way above our chart, so we will leave that one, right? Then pivot point is 162.574, 162.57, which is this one I drew here, 162.574. Then the support 1 is 161.83, 161.83, which is around this is this one, 161.83, right? Then the support 2 is 161.227, 161.227. This is this 161.227. Yeah, around this region. It's not really exact. So these are the points that the pivot point calculator give us as points that the market could not break, or potential points for our support and resistance, right? So remember, this is support 1, this is one support, this is another support, then this is one resistance. We didn't draw the other resistance because the value is very, very high. We cannot see that value in 30 minutes time frame. Understand? So we can leave that value because it's high. Then our pivot points. Now, if you check somehow, you notice that all these values that the pivot point calculator give us are turning points for price. If you notice, when price reached this point, right? When price reached this particular point, it turned back. Although this week formed here, but still, if I had placed a pending order at that resistance, that if price reaches that point, it should sell immediately. You notice that you make profit because immediately you reach this point, the market went down, right? Then for the support, for this support, right? Price could not reach that support today. Which is this one here. Price did not reach the support. But if you notice that around this particular, if you can notice the around this particular support, it was a region that when price reached it, it turned. You notice this turn here, the turning point for price. Then resistance 2 is another point where price was ranging here. So you can practice with other different currency pairs, to understand how to calculate pivot points better. So remember, the main idea of pivot point is to help you understand the potential support and resistance for the next trading day. You understand? So that you don't make mistakes. Like I told you, different people can draw different support and resistance. You understand? But when you use tools, technical analysis tools like Fibonacci, like pivot point calculator, it helps you to know the exact point. You need to take note of where price is going to change direction. I think that is all for this class on um, pivot point calculator. In the next class, we're going to talk about Fibonacci retracement, which is another powerful technical analysis tool. Um, if you have any question, you can just drop your questions in the comment section, or if you can join, I dropped the link to our WhatsApp group on the channel description. So if you can join through there, you join, then you ask your questions and we'll answer you. Thank you.